I think when people talk about democracy today, I think they're talking especially about whether the people have a say directly in politics. And the federal structure of the United States is such that at some points in one's civic life, one will directly vote on something. So, for instance, in Florida, as a Florida citizen, I recently voted on several referenda, which includes things, boring things like taxation and whether fishing is a public right, but also very hot button issues on abortion and marijuana usage. So these are issues where the state of Florida asked the Florida citizens to vote whether those things should be allowed or not. And that was something that was given to the people to vote directly for. So it's a republic ultimately with democratic elements, but critically it also has a federal structure. So not everything is just in a national government. There's also local and state levels of a government as well.
All right. Very good. Thank you. So we're recording this on November 18th. And so shortly after the federal election in the States, and probably airing this after the inauguration in January. But just to give that timestamp, I wanted to ask Michael, because we heard up in Canada the vote that was related to abortion in Florida. What exactly were you voting for? What was that all about?
So it was called Amendment 4. And in Florida, you can petition to have an amendment. It has to go through several hoops to go through, but eventually you can have an amendment proposed for the electorate. And this particular amendment was in the context of the Florida legislature and governor, which is Republican, decided that abortion would be permissible up until, I believe, 6 weeks. And there are those who believe that abortion should be available for any time during the pregnancy, or that the 6-week ban is too limiting. And so instead of having to go through the state legislature, they wanted to bring it to the people. And the amendment essentially was very, very capacious. In my reading of it, it was very open, very vague, and essentially just allowed for abortion for essentially any amount of time. There were no particular policy prescriptions in this amendment. It was effectively to open the door for further policies that would be perhaps done in later administrations should they become more pro-choice electors. So it essentially opened the door within the Constitution to have for more permissible abortion rights. And those who were voting no against this amendment said that there's no safeguards for women, there were no parental consent provisions, and there were no sort of limitations beyond that 6 weeks. So that kind of permissivity was unacceptable.
I mean, it was a victory, obviously, for pro-life. Do they disclose the percentage of people that voted, or is it only that it was struck down?
They do disclose every tally, every ballot, and it was a very, very narrow victory for pro-life advocates. It was, I believe, 57% of the Florida electorate who voted for this amendment. So the majority of the Florida electorate apparently allows for at least opening the question again to more permissible abortion rights.
There's so many human dignity issues on the table right now, and I'm from Canada, where there is basically no abortion laws at all.
If you're unhappy with the way things are, take a good look at the populace, right? And your citizenry. If you're unhappy with both the Democrat and Republican ticket, as I know many people are, even though they might have voted for one or the other, take a good hard look at how you're educating children, right? How you are policing, as it were, the criminals. Take a good look at what's on television and the internet that people are consuming.
There's something good about robust debate that is necessary, that is true, it's even part of our human nature. We have the capability. Your wife was talking about this when she was on the podcast. Unlike the animals, we can all express ourselves, but we have the actual ability to debate. Yes. But it's when you lose the civility of it, when all of a sudden now, when you're speaking with somebody and no matter what they say, you're going to challenge it as something wrong because it's them saying it, that's no longer debate.